トビデオ
The yaoi fandom makes up a non-insignificant portion of otakudom the world over. In the larger international anime fandom, the perception of the yaoi fan and their place in the subculture has certainly evolved. In the mid-90s, the size of the Japanese yaoi fandom was estimated to be at somewhere between 100,000 to 500,000 members, a number that has no doubt increased over the past 30 years. Thanks to the internet, fujoshi with an interest in boys' love are plentiful in all corners of the globe, even beyond just anime. For this reason, it feels like stuff like boys' love, yaoi, and shipping have become facts of life in fan culture, one of the many colors that makes up the diverse rainbow of fandom. But back when I was coming into the otaku world, things were different. In the early 2000s, when the first boys' love anime and manga were making it over here to the States, a veritable Cambrian explosion of fujoshi was happening. And while slash fic had been a thing since the very beginning of modern fandom with the Trekkies, the fujoshi explosion that was happening in tandem with the proliferation of anime and the internet made that aspect of fan culture more visible than ever. And people hated it. For a good part of my otaku lifetime, yaoi fangirls were considered a plague on the American anime fandom, an embarrassing growth of a sub-fandom that only served to make the larger anime fandom look bad. And this was back when anime nerds were seen as low on the nerd hierarchy because they weren't fans of serious works like Star Wars or superhero comics. So anything that made otaku look cringe in the eyes of normal nerds had to be stamped out. A lot of this was due to your standard misogyny and homophobia of the day. A predominantly female fanbase centered around images and stories of two shirtless men kissing each other passionately is going to rub the heteronormative male crowd the wrong way, obviously, especially in the 2000s. At the same time, I was hearing horror stories about fujoshi who did not know how to conduct themselves in a con setting. So many tales of woe involving begging cosplayers to kiss each other, or non-consensual glomping, or the yaoi paddles. The yaoi paddles. What a time to be alive. That behavior, on top of the underlying discourse about their fetishization of male love, did not help their case in the slightest. This negative perception ultimately bled into how people saw anime and manga with boys' love themes and fan service. To non-yaoi fans, that anime was just as embarrassing and trashy as the countless ecchi harem titles that came out around that time. And, well, I can't say they aren't completely wrong. A mysterious spacecraft crash lands in a nearby forest in America. Naturally, the first person to check it out is some boozed up redneck hunter. What he finds is not a Saiyan, but something equally deadly. A humanoid figure that uses a mass of tentacles from their body to drain the blood and fluids from their victims, which it demonstrates on the hunter and his doggy. I know, it sucks. Meanwhile, driving down the highway are Osamu, a Japanese cereal salesman. What? And Jay, his American business partner and friend. They're currently on the road to do cereal salesman stuff, I guess, but end up stumbling across an ongoing military operation. But before they can be told to leave the area, they are attacked by the vampiric creature. Osamu gets blown into a nearby trailer where he finds an incredibly beautiful being with emerald hair, striking heterochromia, and ambiguous gender. Upon hearing a silver bell that Osamu bought as a souvenir, they awaken. Osamu immediately falls in love. While that meet cute is going on, Jay runs into the woods and is confronted by a man who looks to be a traditional Dracula-style vampire. However, he is soon scared off by a trenchcoat-clad shady figure with a disfigured face. Both Osamu and Jay end up in Air Force custody, but are soon bailed out by Jay's father, Dr. Gibson, who is, coincidentally, working on the project involving the mysterious spacecraft and androgynous alien being who is only known by the name Kimera. What are they? Why are they here? And is Osamu's love for them genuine, or is it something much more sinister? Spoiler warning, the answers to those three questions are very stupid. 1996's Kimera feels like it should come with more infamy attached to it. In theory, this should immediately catch my curiosity. An old school anime full of old school anime violence, all centered around a space vampire of ambiguous gender. This concept should be grabbing me. Alas, the only incredible thing about this anime is how they managed to botch its premise in an incredible fashion. And even that is not what I think should make this anime so notorious. The potential infamy for Kimera was that it was an anime based off of a yaoi manga made by one of the most prolific yaoi creators of the 90s that tried to pass itself off as not a yaoi. Yes, believe it or not, there was an attempt to take the boy out of the boy's love. And boy, does that make for a crummy piece of work in more ways than you think. So why don't we close out Pride Month by seeing exactly how much Kimera sucks.
Yeah, right.
So I said in the last section that Kimera was based off of a manga by a prolific mangaka of the boys love genre. And I'm not exaggerating. From my research, if there was one person pushing yaoi to the forefront in the 90s, it was Kazuma Kodaka. Born on November 19th in 1969 in Kobe, Kodaka is actually her pen name. Dropping out of high school to pursue manga full-time, she had planned on going into shonen manga and chose a gender-neutral pen name as a way to better get her foot in the door of the boys club that was manga for boys. She made her debut in 1989 with the miniseries Sessa Takuma, a comedic romantic comedy about a good-natured but wealthy farm boy from Hokkaido named Takuma Ban traveling to the mainland to find a beautiful bride. He finds one in the beautiful Yuki Samejima, but he will have to get past her overprotective brother, Kendo Master Ranmaru, to actually tie the knot. Though the manga only lasted a short bit, Kodaka was able to find a use for the character of Ranmaru. Under the mentorship of Sanami Mato, author of previous episode's subject Fake, Kodaka was able to make her true breakout success with the boys' love series, Kizuna, Bonds of Love. Centered around snarky high school student Kei Injoji and his relationship with his childhood friend turned high school crush, the aforementioned Ranmaru, Kizuna is definitely one of the standout boys' love titles in the 90s. It's a romantic comedy that eventually flourished into a super dramatic, angsty romance, especially once Kodaka decided to make Injoji the bastard heir to a crime family and made the manga more of a Yakuza-themed melodrama years before Sega made a killing on a similar concept. Kizuna was a long runner in the yaoi-centered magazine B-Boy, running from 1992 all the way to 2008. When Kodaka pitched the first chapter through a doujin comic she had made, the publisher Biblos almost rejected it. It wasn't until her editor vouched for her and said, "You can fire me if it doesn't sell," that they relented. I can infer that the editor enjoyed a long, fruitful career. In between Kizuna chapters, Kodaka would also write some yaoi miniseries for B-Boy that would also get popular. Some would even get their own anime, one of these titles being the infamous My Sexual Harassment.
Gentlemen, I bring you more corn!
Yeah, we just did that joke already. Another one of those titles was Kimera. First published in 1995, it can be seen as an attempt by Kodaka to step out of her comfort zone, going from the gritty realistic dramas involving the Yakuza and sleeping your way to the top of the corporate ladder, to sci-fi horror of space vampires and a romance centered around a man and someone whose gender is deliberately left ambiguous. We don't know the exact reception of Kimera, but someone at Biblos figured that this could be turned into an OVA to get more people to buy more B-Boys. Biblos did not have to look far, as they were a subsidiary of the otaku retail conglomerate Animate, which had their own animation studio, Animate Films. Pretty simple journey to get there, right? Where did it all go wrong? Luckily for this anime, it does have some positive aspects, and most of that is on the technical side. Director Kazu Yokota is your typical workhorse in the system whose resume consists mostly of episodes than full projects. The team he got together were also made up of other industry lifers who are important gears in the machinery of multiple productions. Storyboards were provided by background artist and art director Masumi Nishikawa, who, in spite of working outside their wheelhouse, does a good job in making what's happening on screen feel compelling, both in an ethereal romance sense and bloody gothic horror sense. There's also animation director and character designer Yasuomi Umetsu, who, if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you might remember as the director of the Robot Carnival short Presence. And I think he is the special sauce that makes Kimera go down a little easier than it deserves to. his character designs not only help bring Kodaka's flowery, otherworldly designs to life, but he also gets the chance to work outside those models and give us designs that break anime conventions. He and his team also can't help but give us an energetic fight near the end. Can you tell Umezu's 2 years away from giving us a similar treatment to Kite, a hentai? So nothing is wrong on the technical level with Kimera. The problems are all in the script. Screenplay duties were done by Kenichi Kanemaki, another industry workhorse who, like Yokota, mostly has a resume that consists of episodes of TV shows. The few sole credits he does have are mostly comedies such as Graduation's comedy mecha spin-off Sailor Victory and Labyrinth of Flames, two titles that bode ill for an adaptation of Kodaka's story.
What the hell's going on?
Unfortunately, I was only able to grab a single translated chapter of the original manga, with the rest being in RAWs, so I cannot tell if the main problem was the source material and the story was just rotted all the way through. But what I can tell is this: a lot was cut out in the transition from page to screen. Shocker, I know. But here, it feels especially egregious because the manga is just 10 chapters and 2 volumes long. This should lend itself well to telling the whole story in an OVA format. Maybe if it was 2 30-minute episodes instead of one singular 45-minute OVA, but that's not what we got. So now we have an anime that appears to be speeding through its own plotline and removing a lot of the emotional core in the process. An example, in the manga, after the first encounter with Kimera, we see Osamu and Jay get picked up by the MPs and taken to lockup. They are able to make bail and drive back to Jay's house, where we get to meet his family, who only have a cameo appearance in the anime proper. And it is here where we actually get a scene where Osamu parses what had just happened. He remembers being drawn in by Kimera's beauty, but he also remembers the warmth of a human being behind that glass. To him, Jay's father and the Air Force are experimenting on something sentient and alive. Whatever's going on doesn't sit right with Osamu, and he immediately starts planning his next move, despite the MP's warnings that he would do best to not get involved with whatever he saw in that fish tank. But in the anime, that whole layer of nuance is removed. Osamu immediately falls in love with Kimera and wants to find them again. That's what leads to him releasing them into the world, and we soon learn that that was a terrible idea. But the anime doesn't seem to treat Osamu's infatuation with Kimera like he's being put under a spell. I think we're actually supposed to feel good for him that he's drawn into this web by this androgynous mute vampire. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that outside of flashbacks, Kimera doesn't actually speak directly to Osamu or anyone else. They spend the entire anime in total silence, either roaming the streets confused or encased in something. Osamu might as well be falling in love with a cat. I feel nothing from this clearly one-sided romance. Mew from Elfen Lied had better potential for chemistry. Made worse that when we do see Kimera in flashback, they're in complete Disney princess mode talking about how they don't want to drink blood because that's mean.
Life is too precious. If survival means killing my friends to drink their blood, then I would rather die.
And the anime doesn't offer any explanation as to why they're now going literal Hall & Oates man-eater. The story outside the romance does not fare better, and in fact, only seems to show why the romance is not going to work in the first place. So the whole story is that Jay's father, Dr. Gibson, is keeping Kimera deep in the laboratory's biosphere for research, I guess. That's also not explained. And the main conflict hinges on other space vampires hunting for her. The first is the traditional Dracula type named, I'm not kidding here, Keanu. He is Kimera's brother, and he is trying to hunt them down in order to euthanize them to save the Earth. One thing I will give the story is that it does look like he's being set up as the main bad guy through his remorseless killing of the people in the laboratory, but that's only because he's exacting revenge on the scientists for their hubris. He's also the reason why the romance, in quotes, between Osamu and Kimera is a sham, because Kimera thinks Osamu is actually Keanu because of that bell he has, which... okay.
Kimera, I'm not Keanu. Do you understand what I'm saying?
The true bad guy is the other vampire, the deformed Ginzu. He is also a sibling of both Kimera and Keanu, and he has far grander ambitions. Working with Dr. Gibson's rival scientist, Dr. Fender, Haha. Ginzu knows that Kimera is a mother to their race of space vampires. Their race of space vampires is currently infertile and on the verge of extinction, and Kimera, having drank blood, is now able to bear sufficient offspring to keep their species alive. On top of that, Ginzu has also chosen Earth as their new planet to repopulate their species, not just because there's ample supply of tasty humans to feed on, but also because it's excellent served cold revenge on humankind who killed every single one of his ancestors. That's right, every vampire that has existed throughout time on Earth was from space.
You called them monsters and devils, and then you savagely murdered them. Not because we threatened you, but you pathetic savages feared anything that you didn't understand.
If it sounds like I'm making the story more exciting than it actually is, it's probably because I am. Actually, watching the anime paints a plot that feels rudderless most of the time and blazes through most of the main plot beats while also slowly dragging out the most pointless scenes. Demon Slayer, take notes.
Do something! That alarm's gonna go off any second now!
Me? What am I supposed to do? Okay, I'll push a few buttons at random.
Maybe it's a trap. Maybe that'll trigger the alarm. Huh?
But I have not gotten into what really hacked me off about this anime. What really causes the anime to be rotten to the core. One slice of the discourse surrounding yaoi and the people who love it is that the couples in yaoi fiction tend to follow archetypes that resemble more traditional heterosexual couple dynamics. One is a tall, dark, handsome male who usually wears the suit, is more of an aggressive pursuer, and takes control in the relationship. They usually play the role of the seme. The other is a meek, soft, usually younger male with light hair and a submissive disposition. They play the role of the uke. The critique that comes from this dynamic is that, despite both characters being male, the uke, or bottom, takes on more feminine traits in contrast to the seme, or top's, hyper-masculine traits. It's not a reflection of a realistic male-on-male couple, but trying to twist a gay relationship so that they can fit into a more heterosexual lens. I theorize that Kodaka was aware of these critiques since she wrote Kimera around the time the yaoi debates were gaining steam, because Kimera feels like a deliberate subversion of these dynamics. Osamu is this tall, tan, broad-shouldered man, but he is the one being taken in by Kimera's wiles, lured into this world of possibilities by this beautiful, mysterious creature who has womanly features yet the body of a man. Kodaka is leaning into these broad archetypes so she can better turn them on their head. It's a shame that anime took this opportunity to take the yaoi out of this yaoi adaptation. In the Japanese manga, the gender ambiguity is made possible since Kodaka only refers to Kimera with gender-neutral pronouns. I think this might have also carried over to the anime since Kimera is voiced by Nobuo Camille as a girl's name, Tobita, using a feminine affect. I say I think because the sub I have uses feminine pronouns. This is where we talk about localization. I'm going off of 2000 era forum rumors here, but from what I've heard, licensor ADV was told by the people at Animate that they were discouraged from localizing and marketing Kimera as a boys' love title. Through the power of casting and script rewrites, they had to make this anime where a man falls in love with a non-binary space vampire, and anime where a man falls in love with a female space vampire. They inserted female pronouns and cast Kim Sevier, the original dub voice for Yui Ikari, in the role of Kimera, and off they went.
I don't want to drink your blood. If you can't love me, then kill me. Please kill me. I don't want to live that way.
On one hand, I can see why they did this. Boys' love titles may have been coming over to American shores by this point, but the yaoi fandom was not a visible subculture yet. They were mostly still on the internet. On the other hand, trying to make this into a hetero romance is both an exercise in futility, Kimera still has a male body, but also extinguishes what little appeal this anime had. Not only do they remove the non-binary element uniqueness of Kimera and their role in the story, but also, by making them female, you just make the anime feel completely standard. It's now more cheapo bin fodder at the local Suncoast, only supported by animated gore and an uncomfortably long sex scene between Kimera and two randos with very dubious consent. And the whole anime ends with Keanu sacrificing himself to kill Ginzu, but not before making the request to Osamu to kill Kimera if he wishes to save his own planet, since they're still fertile and can give birth to vampires.
You must kill her. Kill Kimera! The fate of your race is in your hands.
So Osamu makes the difficult choice to keep up the romance with Kimera even though they can't speak, thinks he's someone else, and will destroy humanity if he actually tried something with them. I guess they them pussy really is worth it. This would have hit better if they had kept up either the forbidden romance angle or the horror angle, but they don't. They just plop this ending in our laps and expect us to take it. Osamu has every reason for both the humans and the vampires to not pursue this relationship, and he keeps at it because the plot says so. It's even worse with the localized version because that mysterious romance element is gone and it just reads like a tacked on romance in an action movie. The ending is giving me nothing, I've learned nothing, and I feel nothing. Well, that was Kimera. While animated well enough, little to no care is taken in how to approach it as an adaptation. You can feel the apathy from the screenwriter and producers pulsating off the screen. On its own, it's a bland 45-minute slog with formless structure, jagged pacing, and a chemistry-less romance that's only fueled by writer clairvoyance. And once they tried marketing it elsewhere, their best plan of action was to try to remove the yaoi elements and turn it into a more by-the-numbers product. Kimera the manga seemed to have been made with the best intentions of an artist trying to push herself. Kimera the anime was a cynical ploy to try to grab Fujoshi dollars before trying to turn it into something it wasn't for the non-Fujoshi. Sucks that I'm ending Pride Month on such a dour garbage dump of an anime, but we still need to learn about bad space vampire genderqueer romances so that better space vampire genderqueer romances can be made. We all deserve better. Even the much maligned yaoi fanbase deserves better than this. So let's close out June by putting a stake through this anime.
I cannot.
Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.
Hey, Roy, is that you? Are you asleep, Roy?